Hey everyone, Daniel and Chris here with the Superhero Show. Now, very exciting week. We had the exclusive debut of the Daredevil trailer, which we both quite liked. And that's kind of led us to think about superhero movies and properties that have a second chance at redemption.
Yeah, it's been the week of the Ds.
Yeah.
And it's been a week of optimism, really, because we got the Daredevil trailer, as you said, and also some quotes from Ryan Reynolds about the Deadpool movie, which is about to start shooting. Now, obviously, both those properties have had movies in the past. Daredevil standalone, Deadpool cropped up in the Wolverine movie. And it's fair to say they weren't successes.
Yeah, they didn't really nail it first time around.
Critically, commercially, no one was happy. So,
yeah, and I felt like at the time you really tried really hard to say nice things as a fan of the characters.
Yeah.
Particularly Daredevil, who's defending it, going, oh, you hear this a lot about Daredevil. He's going, the director's cut's pretty good. It's still not that great, is it? It's still not that much better.
But yeah, so we got our first look at the TV show, which is hitting Netflix in April, and I think it's fair to say we liked what we saw. I mean, it's only a minute to go on, a couple of minutes, but it looked good. Yeah,
it seemed really good tonally. We've been talking about it quite a bit on the show over the last year or so, and we were kind of being really optimistic, keep saying Jeff Loeb and his team are saying all the right things, the right sort of influences, but the proof is in the pudding, the proof is in the trailer, and seeing it, just seeing what they're going for. And I feel that trailer, I feel really positive after seeing that trailer. That trailer it establishes the tone. There's nothing very comedic about it. There's no wisecrack, and I'm sure there'll be little bits of humour in the show here and there, but it's very much putting a stake in the ground and saying we're going to go much darker, more serious.
You could see The Man Without Fear in it, couldn't you? The Frank Miller, John Romita, which I think you just reread, didn't you?
Well, I reread it recently because obviously it's such a big influence, and it's from 1993, and essentially it's Daredevil's year one. Is going back, doing his origin story, maybe stripping away some of the more elaborate superpower stuff he has in the original origin story and taking him back to basics as a man who's a very skilled martial artist. And there's some horrible stuff in that mini series. There's human trafficking of children. It's real horrible, gritty stuff.
Yeah.
And there's also a really interesting character. There's a violent man. There's a man who his father is almost an abused child, really, because his father doesn't want him to be a thug like him. He doesn't want him to be a fighter. So he kind of keeps him indoors and makes him study. He says, "You're better than this, Matt. I don't want you to end up like me, this thug." But Matt has this violence inside of himself. And I love it. People should check it out. It's like 10 quid if you buy it in a trade. And Matt is a violent man. And the first time he goes out, he does some horrible things. And it seems the show is all going to be about good and bad.
Yeah,
it's like a crime saga.
We're going to get a sense of the ambiguity there, aren't we? As to who is better for the city. Is it Kingpin or is it Daredevil, It's not necessarily going to be suggesting that this vigilante is the right solution. Because
the showrunner says it's very much a show about the rise of Wilson Fisk as Kingpin and how his organisation is, yes, based on crime, but it improves the city in certain nefarious ways. It cleans it up in other aspects. You're controlling the drug trade, for instance. And I think that's really interesting. And it's even though it's connected to the MCU, I almost feel like it's like a different imprint of comics. Marvel does that. It kind of creates different tones in its comics and it has different imprints and that's for this readership. And I grew up in the period where Marvel Knights was a big thing and Max, the imprint, where they tackle kind of more adult stuff. And I grew up with the Daredevil by Bendis and Brubaker, which is what I see in that trailer via Frank Miller.
Yep, and they've talked a lot about Fisk's love story as well. That's going to maybe get as much screen time as Daredevil does. And that's interesting as well. So we're going to see a real sympathetic side of the villain. So I don't know, that's a new way to go. I also like the fact we got a bit of a glimpse of Rosario Dawson as Claire Temple, who is a character that Luke Cage has a relationship with in the comics. Yeah. So I like it's the first signs of the crossovers potentially happening. And we know they're going to happen, but it's exciting to hear about them because that's the kind of thing we like as well.
Marvel have proved they're really good at world building, universe building. It seems like they're taking that kind of ideology, that philosophy, and doing it on the small screen. So you have this character that'll seed something else in a really kind of natural, well-paced way. And also, just before we came in and shot this episode, we learned that Daredevil's been given a TV MA rating, which to UK viewers and other people outside North America, I think it's kind of like a 17. Other shows that have that are Boardwalk Empire, Walking Dead, Game of Thrones. So, it's pitched a bit more adult.
Yeah, we saw a glimpse of him bleeding at the end.
Yeah.
We could be seeing a lot more blood if that's the rate.
Yeah, and some maybe, like we're saying about the Frank Miller comic, some very unseemly things that he gets mixed up in.
Yeah. So reason to be cheerful, really.
Yeah.
And equally, we're going to talk about Deadpool as well, because Ryan Reynolds has been talking about the movie, which is literally about to go into production in Vancouver. And I will read out his quotes. He said, "We don't get to make it with the budget of most superhero movies, but we get to make it the way we want to make it." He was then asked about what went wrong with Green Lantern, and he said it was the script, basically. He said, when we shot Green Lantern, nobody auditioning for the role of Green Lantern was given the opportunity to read the script because it didn't exist. That's what's different on this one. We've had a script for 3 years. The script got leaked and people loved that. That says a lot if you can create a script around a comic book character that is directly within the canon of the character and be embraced. That's a huge step in the right direction. I've since learned that a lot of superhero movies don't really have a fully functioning draft of the screenplay ready until they're already well into shooting. Yeah. Which is something we've touched upon about a couple of films lately that are bobbing around, Fantastic Four, Suicide Squad, maybe even Batman v Superman.
There's more desire to get them into production than actually focus on what it really needs first.
Yeah, the release date comes before the script.
Yeah.
So this is really interesting because it's quite unique that they've had that, to have a script sit there ready and waiting with all of them good to go, and just no one being prepared to finance it, and now it's going to happen. So we're going to get a low budget Deadpool, probably a fifth of the budget of his previous incarnation in the X-Men Origins movie.
That's great.
But yet we might get the right one.
I think that's the most important thing, on our own terms.
Yeah.
And also what's clever about those remarks, and he seems like quite a smart guy, he's tapping into the goodwill of the fans.
Yeah.
Because those are the people that were so screwed over and felt the pain of seeing the character done in that way in Origins.
Yeah.
Joe Bloggs, who doesn't know Deadpool, it's like, whatever, he's the bad guy. But it's people who are fans of that character that feel that most deeply. So you need to get them back on side. And, they responded really well to that test footage.
Well, it's the fans who are getting this made, because that was totally leaked. And in that same interview, he's asked if he leaked it, and he says he didn't, but he wished he had the balls to. He said he doesn't actually know who leaked it, but he said 3 years ago when kind of the stake was put in the project, so to speak. They even discussed, him and the writers and directors, well, let's just leak the footage ourselves. But he said none of us had the balls to do it. And he said, I wish I had done, but it did get out there, and I think that's why the film is getting made now. Oh. But I will temper that, though, just thinking about those quotes. Dredd. So Dredd was a film that was pretty much made on its own terms for a smaller budget. It got to be R-rated. We loved it. Anyone I know that's seen it loved it, but it didn't do the business to allow a sequel to happen. And we talked to Alex Garland about this, didn't we, recently? His frustrations.
He felt really guilty about it.
Really sad about it. So that's the worry, is that I guess it's the outlay versus the return, and what needs to happen for Deadpool to kind of continue.
Yeah, it's really interesting. You can make this Deadpool movie, make it for that budget, make it for fans, but ultimately Deadpool fans existing aren't that many when you compare it to the massive audiences and the mainstream audiences that will come and flock to see something like a Batman v Superman or Age of Ultron later this year, where you're getting just everyone to go see that.
Yeah.
Deadpool's a much harder sell.
Yeah. And introducing a character like that, like they did with Guardians, costs hundreds of millions of dollars in marketing. And I don't know, it's going to be an interesting one, but we like those quotes, don't we?
Yeah, and I don't feel like we talk about a lot on the show that superhero movies are doing a really good job of embracing different genres. I don't think we've had a really out-and-out funny superhero movie. I think Guardians is the closest, but it's a funny movie rather than out-and-out comedy.
Yeah, I think Kick-Ass was pretty funny.
Yeah.
Kick-Ass was pretty funny, but you're right, like a laugh out loud fun for the duration.
Really self-referential.
And Reynolds is a funny guy, and he does seem to really genuinely care about this character as well, so I don't know, another reason to be optimistic.
Great, so that's what we think about the new takes on Daredevil and Deadpool. Are there any superheroes that you feel were kind of hard done by first time round? If so, let us know at superheroshow@ign.com. And for all your superhero needs, stay right here on IGN.